You're watching Africa News Network First Fast Live with me, Cindy Mabi. Clive Ramatibela Smith is off for the week, enjoying a holiday in Dubai, I'm told. Now, taking a look at our top story, Minister in the Presidency, Jeff Radebe, has reportedly embarked on a public relations drive and apologized for exchanging explicit text and email messages with an employee in the government's communications agency. In a newspaper interview, Minister Jeff Radebe says the scandal was a regrettable moment of weakness. He added that engaging in the text and email conversations was improper for a married man. Meanwhile, some ANC leaders, including Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, says Radebe was noble to apologize. Radebe's fate is now in the hands of the ANC Top 6 and the National Working Committee, which has been silent on the scandal so far. And here's what Radebe says in his apology. He says, and I quote, "I sincerely regret engaging in the text and email conversations, which are improper for a married man. Beyond those exchanges, there was never a relationship and the communication was never acrimonious. I apologize for the embarrassment caused to Mbambani, my wife, my family, everyone, and the ANC," end quote. And meanwhile, the ANC Disciplinary Committee Chair Derek Honeycomb says that they are still awaiting a formal complaint from the alleged victim.
The Disciplinary Committee does not make the decision as to whether to charge or not. Now, that is the decision taken by the 6 officials of the ANC, or the National Working Committee. Once they've investigated the case, they would then present the case to the Disciplinary Committee, and only if they come to the conclusion that this is a matter that requires disciplinary hearings, then they would pass it over to the Disciplinary Committee, which I chair, as you said, and then we would deal with the matter according to the set procedures in the Constitution.
ANN7 sources say former Western Cape ANC chairperson Marius Fransman has sent a message to the ANC Top 6, and the sources reveal that Fransman has registered his discontent over the Radebe sexting matter. And as per the sources, Fransman says the ANC disciplinary process were violated. He has accused the ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe of dual standards. In his letter, Fransman says he was slaughtered in haste without proper procedures being followed.
Marius Fransman has written to ANC Top 6. Yesterday, he handed over this letter to them, expressing disappointment on how ANC has dealt with, Jeff Radebe's sexting scandal as compared to his case. Now, remember, Marius Fransman was suspended as the Western Cape provincial chairperson after his allegations last year in January, when his personal secretary, alleged that he had behaved in an inappropriate way with her. In the second paragraph of this letter saying, on a mere allegation of an individual with no witnesses, I, as a long-standing member of the organization, was slaughtered on the altar of political expediency. I have also noted how such took place with complete disregard of the ANC's constitutional prescripts. And he says he wishes to place on record that the principles that all members will be treated equally and that ANC disciplinary processes should never have been violated.
And joining us live in studio, Mosiri Tsiane from the South African Liberty Foundation. And we're joined by Commissioner Mbuyiselo Botha, Commissioner for Gender Equality. Walter Lukhuleni is a PAC Secretary for Publicity. Professor Barry Hanyani is a political analyst with the Northwest University. Good evening, gentlemen. As always, a pleasure to have you. You at home, you can call us on 011-542-2186. Was the Minister in the Presidency essentially cornered, that he had no other option but to apologize? Do you view this as a PR stunt or something that is noble?
Well, an apology should be taken as an apology. I think we cannot be saying that those that apologize in various instances that their apologies are worse off or that one's apology is better off. There's been an apology that we've seen from Marikana. There's been various apologies that we've seen, but I think as human beings, we should take it that if a man is able to can stand up and admit his faults, particularly a married man in this instance, and tell public that he did something wrong. And when he gives us that apology and we say that we cannot accept that apology, no, I think we should accept that apology.
So we're applying theology here. So if maybe you take your hat off as a pastor, Walter, and look at it from the political dichotomy that we find ourselves in, especially with the race to the ANC elective conference.
I think Cindy, thanks for the opportunity and good evening to the viewers. I think the question that arises here is that the incident was revealed on Sunday and he apologizes. I think it's a sincere apology. It should be accepted. Whether or not he would have apologized if he had no other ambitions, it's a question that only he would know. But for me, the biggest action that he could take in order to show his sincerity is to fall on his sword and resign. Look, as an elderly person, he shouldn't have pressured the young lady. You know, he's old enough to be the father.
Yeah, to say it was a moment of weakness may be inadequate for some, especially considering that the ANC didn't come out with a statement. Why are they mum about it? We have a caller, Patrick in Limpopo. Good evening to you and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Cindy and the viewers. My comment is, I think now is the time for all the South Africans to realize how a party like ANC is real. Because now all the true colors of the ANC is coming out, and we are very happy because now people, they started to witness the true reflection of the ANC. All their leaders are like that. I think what Jeff Radebe did, considering what is going on in the country concerning women abuse, is very uncalled for. And I'm just so excited to see what ANC is going to do about him.
All right, Patrick, thanks so much for your call. Professor Barry Hanyane, a political analyst with the University of the Northwest. Good evening to you. Patrick essentially saying that politicians need to be beyond reproach and meet the standard of integrity, honesty. But when a man falters and he errs, is it not divine to forgive? Because we are all human after all.
Cindy, good evening to you. Good evening to the panelists there. Look, I think it is spot on. What worries me the most is the recent cases that speaks to more or less similar incidences where high-profile politicians are seen not to be behaving in an ethical manner. And I'm not surprised that a person like Marius Fransman has taken this to heart, finding it somewhat more biased in terms of his own treatment within the ANC. But let us not forget that you still have unsavory behavior that has been aired in public of the current finance minister, who more or less experienced more of the same thing. The question then could be asked, what happens to the moral compass in such an instance? Let me align myself with the sentiments echoed by the PAC representative in your studio there, that in such instances, not only does it affect Jeff's public image, but also his own family image as well. And by and large, an admission of guilt may very well demand of him to recuse himself of any high political responsibility.
Yeah, but if you draw example with Marius Fransman, we know of other similar incidents with the then Minister of Sport, Fikile Mbalula. We had the chair of the MKVA himself involved in inappropriate behavior, and to now say that after Jeff Radebe has apologized, he should resign. This is not a trend. You know, we in a country of impunity, if you will, when it comes to issues of patriarchy and how men behave generally in positions of power. So how do you then expect Jeff to resign when there hasn't been an example of such before?
I think from the PAC position is that we are not asking for Jeff to resign only because it's Jeff Radebe. We are saying anyone who holds a position of authority and should be seen as a role model in society should commit what I would call moral suicide and resign. So I would have expected Fikile Mbalula to do the same. I would have expected, well, with Marius Fransman it's even worse because he never even apologized. You know, he kept on denying. We don't know the merits of the matter, but the reality is that once you are a politician with an ambition to lead the community and the country, you should then hold yourself in high esteem, in the sense that even you should be beyond reproach. So I would have expected all of them to resign. And for me, as part of the liberation movement, I would have expected the ANC to have taken a harsher position against those people who were involved, you know.
Shouldn't we let the internal processes, though, determine as to when a disciplinary will take place? Firstly, there has to be a formal complaint from the victim. The ramifications thereof will be decided by the top six or the National Working Committee whether they'll discipline or not. But can the ANC afford to ignore this matter?
I think the ANC cannot afford to ignore it. But also it's a question, rightly so, that there should be a formal complaint. But what I'm saying is that they should have had a position taken to say anyone who gets involved in this kind of episodes should then be removed from the national list. You know?
Okay, hold on, Walter. There's a caller, Tembeni in Durban. Good evening to you.
Yeah, how are you, Cindy?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Yeah, my comment here is what Jeff Radebe did, I don't think it's a mistake at all, you know. If I can take you back, there was an issue of taxmen in Gauteng, I don't remember the year, and then they were complaining about the miniskirts of women and all of the stuff, you know. Jeff Radebe came there as a minister and he said he loved the miniskirt. So whatever he did or whatever pictures he received, nude pictures, he loved it. You know what I'm saying? This is not about the party. This is not about ANC. ANC is just a conquered party. There are certain individuals. Also, my comment is what happened to Fransman must happen to Jeff Radebe.
All right, thank you so much for your call, Mtembeni in Durban. Is this essentially indicative of a country that is ill-equipped in dealing with issues of power imbalance, especially in the workspace, where in this case the young lady felt victimized, according to her tweets, and harassed because she wasn't accessible to advances or sexual advances in the agency?
Well, I think fair enough to say that we are a country in which we've got rules of employment that are there, the codes of conduct that are there, and the fact that you've got a lady who's been able to highlight or to take in public such an issue shows that we've got rules that are there. But be that as it may, we've got to know that each and every case must be treated with its own merits. You know, and at what stage do we say that you have reached a stage where it's totally unacceptable at that level? At what stage do we say that forgiveness or asking forgiveness can be acceptable? And I think one would say that and reiterate the fact that when the ANC have to deal with its code of conduct of its members, particularly those that are holding a high esteem offices, what is it that we expect of them? Because one will give an example that at one particular stage you will have a high moral president or a minister that we all looked up to, and one particular day he asked a picture from a certain girl, and all her baloo, we say that that particular person that we all love in South Africa must resign because you have asked for a picture. What degree of damage have you done for the organization, or what degree have you done for South Africa that we should look to and compare without just at all time hasting to request that a person must just resign? I think the disciplinary process in itself must determine as to at what degree, at what level.
I think you're losing Walter there. He's falling off the bus of, you know, if as a leader there's certain behavior that you simply should not engage in, albeit a moment of weakness. And that's what we're talking about, that your reputational value or equity is now diminished because of a certain appetite you have for nude pictures or whatever it is.
Yes, be that as it may, what I'm saying is that once you go into that disciplinary process, we would be able, I think that then the organization, or rather at that level, you'll be able to determine at what length and degree. I'm saying this for a fact that it's easy for now for us to call and say, but this reputational level and all that. one can say that at one stage, this other reputational level that you have done this, why don't that one resign? At the end of the day, we might have a situation where we absolutely have no leaders. Either a leader who came in and said, I gave a public this information. In actual fact, I was wrong to mislead you. This is the actual information that... But I hear you. We're living in a times where, you know, the women's rights should be taken into cognizance. These are the most scary times of our lives in South Africa in general. Our Soweto debacle, things that are happening in particular in that township, overall, not only in one township, but all over South Africa, where young girls are being murdered and so forth. And rape it's a serious problem that we have in society. We are expecting that we have people who are going to reflect the high morals that we need to be. But at what stage do we say that once you've jumped this line, this is where you actually will have a cut, non-negotiable?
We'll get a response from Commissioner Botha. Sean in KwaZulu-Natal, good evening to you, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening to you, Cindy. I just want to say this, that firstly, we had a huge... Hello?
Yes, we're listening.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that you watched this weekend.
Yeah, move around, Sean. We're losing you.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, your line is not so great, but carry on very briefly.
Okay. What I'm saying is that there is huge march not our name. What the minister is now doing is totally wrong. This is sexual harassment. What needs to be done needs to be discussed. That's the bottom line.
All right, Sean, thanks so much for your call. And we have Commissioner Mbuyiselo Botha, Commissioner for the Gender Equality. Commissioner Botha, good evening to you and thanks for joining us. The question is this indicative of the nature of how we view women, objectifying them, and also the power imbalances in the workplace, that the victim is not even being considered? Politicians don't know how to react. In fact, it seems more like a PR activity than a sincere apology. What's your view?
Well, thank you, Cindy, and to your listeners as well. I think it's important, Cindy, for us to accept the fact that issues of power are critical in the workplace. But also, Cindy, for us to acknowledge that as a society, we don't have mechanisms in place to deal with sexual harassment. We always...
All right, Commissioner, I'm sorry, we're going to have to get back to you. We just have technical glitches there. So we're saying the apology is not enough and that this should be the end of his political career, as it were.
I think as a PAC, we are saying that the 51% majority of the women are dependent, because of the patriarchal situation that we live in, on the men to protect them. And we're saying as a PAC, that should be the end of your career. You know, once you cross the line where there is no consensual agreement, there's a problem. You should just leave. You know, for us as a PAC, yes, we understand there are internal processes within the ANC, and we will not interfere with those because it's a political party on its own rights. But we are saying, if we are to protect the women of this country from all sorts of sexual harassment that can come out, we are saying it should be a requirement of anyone holding public office, holding a position of influence in a political party, to resign if they find themselves at a moment of weakness, as they put it. The moment of weakness should define the end of your career. That's our position.
All right, let's take Temba in the Val. Hello, Temba. Good evening to you.
Hello, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Cindy, I don't think we must put the blame only the leadership or up there. I think we must check even the behavior of our girls in these days. How are they behaving in front of those politicians? Because there's a lot of cases, especially when it comes to a national conference come in. Things that are happening right now, even the issue of those rape cases and ladies that have been killed, we must understand on the issue of harassment to deal with the such case. But even our women in these days, the behavior are still putting the blame on them somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, Themba, I beg to disagree with you, because what you're suggesting is that in the way the woman carries themselves, what they wear, if she's flirtatious, she's then calling for sexual violation. In this case, it doesn't seem that there was consent or consensus regarding the relationship. It may have been a case of being victimized, as she calls it, being harassed to a point where you had to submit. So let's get a view from Commissioner Botha. Good to have you back, and thanks for staying with us. Isn't that part of the problem, that we tend to vilify the victim when they come out with cases of sexual violation?
Well, yes, Cindy. It's also Cindy. It is a problem, Cindy, in that as a country, we don't have mechanisms or systems that actually ensures that issues of sexual harassment are actually codified. I mean, many departments or organizations do not really, Cindy, have these in place. And that's why the Commission, it always tries to say that do organizations have these mechanisms in place so that such cases, we do not close the stable when the horses has bolted, Cindy. So it's always important to encourage departments, private sector, to put in place mechanisms, sexual harassment policies, not only to end up as policies, but also to ensure that the survivor, Cindy, feels protected, feels okay, that I can report without fear of any adverse consequences. So as a commission, we always are of the view that sexual harassment cases should be treated with sensitivity, but also must be treated with understanding that women also have their own agency that we should also respect. And then we're saying that issues of power are very critical and they're important, Cindy, in this whole thing. That as men, it's important for us to be cognizant and be alive to the power that we have. And how do you use that power? How do you abuse that power? But more importantly, it's important for this society to actually put in place sexual harassment policies that are not only in gathering desks, that every individual in the workplace, in society, knows them and is able to feel sure and feel ready that they would protect him or her.
All right, so let's take Professor Barry Hanyane. Thanks so much for staying with us. And our question is, how does the ANC recover from this? They cannot spin it in any particular favorable way, and taking into consideration that whatever demise may befall the victim in this case could be a reflection of what she was concerned about in the first place.
Look, if I was in the ethics committee of the ANC, I would make sure that as ANC, they push for a policy directive or regime of some kind to make sure that such incidences are dealt with amicably as and when they happen. It's not only a local issue that worries me the most, but rather more of a global scourge, if you want to call it that way. Let's take you back to the days of the Clinton presidency. One is reminded of the behavior of Monica Lewinsky, who, through a scandal, sadly, which brings in a measure of contradiction in terms, also made money by publishing the book, having, in a sense, indulged in such an unethical behavior. We need to guard against this as leaders and make sure that organizations out there, whichever organization you can talk about, is able to come with some policy directive so that you don't end up with cases such as that of Marius Fransman in the Western Cape, and of course prevent other cases of similar kind in the future.
Yeah, Professor Hanyane, thanks so much. J.R. and Foster Ross, good evening to you and welcome to the show.
Very good evening, Cindy, and the panel.
Yes, sir. What's your comment or question?
Cindy, first, I want our nation to remember one thing, that what is happening or what Jeff Radebe has done, it's a natural thing.
We grow up knowing that when you see a lady, you treat a lady well, you greet the lady, hello, you talk, and all those things. By then, it was not harassment. Today, because of the technology, something of the similar kind, but because of technology is happening, it's harassment. Sometimes we are misusing the English words and interpretation with our culture. A lady...
I'm sorry, we're out of time. Just a very quick response from our panelists in that these are things that are perpetuated in street corners and how women are objectified, and it's only now because of social media that it's brought to the surface. What's your view on that?
Cindy, as the PAC, we may be labeled as extremists. We are saying women must be protected. Women should not be required to dress in a particular way for the sake of men. Women are not expected to extend certain favors because it is acceptable cultural. We believe it is a wrong cultural interpretation. The reality is that if a woman says no, no should be no. And if I, as a leader, am guilty of having harassed a woman, I should fall on my sword.
Okay, Walter, we're going to leave it there. Do you think that if the relationship was not consummated, it makes any difference?
No, I don't think it would. There is no way in which one would stand up and say that there should be an harassment of women at any stage. But one is saying and would reiterate that each and every case must be treated by its own merits. It's important that we do that so that we do not at any given moment we fall into a trap where every time there is that kind of engagement, it is perceived otherwise.
Okay, we're going to leave it there, gentlemen. As always, it's been a privilege having you in studio. Masiri Tsianes with the South African Liberty Foundation, and we have Commissioner Mbuyiselo Botha, Commissioner for Gender Equality on the phone, and Walter Lukhuleni, PAC Secretary for Publicity, and Professor Beri Hanyane, political analyst and professor with the University of the Northwest.